Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Fraud Watch Friday. We've got a great program and a special program. We're going to be looking inside the world of local law enforcement and how fraud is being fought at the local level. And we've got a police detective from the Spokane Police Department who is a statewide and I think countrywide and perhaps even worldwide expert on fighting fraud. He's going to join us in just a second, but first I want to say hi to Kay Tomlinson, who's our resident fraud expert. Hi, Kay. How are things with you today?
Hey, Bruce, doing well today. Thank you. And thanks to all of you for joining us for this very special Fraud Watch Friday. I'm very, very happy and grateful to the wonderful Hillcrest Library here in Boise, Idaho, for offering me a space to join you today. And I didn't want to miss this for sure. So thank you. Think of your questions. And as we go along, make sure you put them in the chat so Detective Tim can be answering them for you after he's done a presentation. And I do want to introduce Detective Tim Schwering. He's been part of the Spokane Police Department for several years. He's won multiple awards, citations, and accolades. He's a known expert in fraud investigation, cybercrime, and cryptocurrency crime as well. However, that's not all. Prior to his Spokane Police Department days, he worked for several years as a fraud investigator for the Federal Public Defender's Office. Then he joined SPD as the civilian director for the Seattle Spokane Police Department Accountability Office. And then that, of course, wasn't enough. Then you just joined the police department as an officer. So you've been everywhere, Detective Schwering, and it's really to our benefit because now we have the benefit of all those years of expertise from several different points of view. So thank you very much for joining us, Detective Tim Schwering, and we're going to turn it over to you. We're all really anxious to hear what you have to teach us.
Very good. Thank you again for having me here today. I really, really appreciate it. I'm going to start sharing my screen here. Just a second. Let me get this taken care of. Okay, again, my name is Tim Schwering. I'm with the Spokane Police Department. I've been with the department for about 13 years. Um, and I've had kind of my career has kind of bounced around with dealing with all different types of crimes. I've done everything from homicide to human trafficking to fraud, and kind of everywhere else in between. This kind of iteration of my career, I was actually working for our drug unit, for lack of a better term, and was seeing a lot of money was being moved in drug cases and human trafficking cases through cryptocurrency. And so the Secret Service has a school down in Alabama that teaches cryptocurrency and how to trace it and how to investigate it. Went to that, came back ready to fight the good fight, and then all of a sudden, I was suddenly the fraud person because there was just an inundated cases of fraud that was coming in, and kind of started working on that. And that's kind of why we're here today. We'll kind of get going here. So just kind of, and normally I do this in person, so but you can certainly raise your hands as I see people online here. How many people have heard of the term pig butchering? We've got a few now. So I've been doing presentations similar to this for now, gosh, 2.5 years. And when I first was doing these, no one had heard of that. So I'm pleased that at least that's making kind of the rounds. For those that haven't heard of it, how many people have gotten like a wrong number text, an email, a text message from the Department of Licensing saying that you have a bill to pay or something like that? Most everyone. I joke that, we get those text messages from Amazon that are clearly fake, but they're designed for people kind of around my age because my wife and I have 2 kids, and sometimes it feels like we are supporting Amazon just by our own household purchases because seem to get brought boxes every day. So those are the types of scams that are pig butchering scams. And now, why pig butchering? Why is that term? These scams are more longitudinal in nature, where some scams can be very quick, kind of a quick turnaround. These are these scams are the long game. So what you'll have happen is people will develop relationships with their victim, befriend them, and this can go on for months, if not years. And this is actually a Chinese term, is that they consider it fattening up the pig before they butcher them and take all their money. Um, what we're seeing is a lot of times the initial contact really can be almost on any type of platform. So I mean, even LinkedIn, for goodness sakes, I didn't know anyone really used LinkedIn anymore, but there's scammers there as well. But a lot of times that's going to be, you'll see on, especially dating apps. Dating apps are more prone to this types of scam because you're already putting yourself out there. You're trying to meet new people, so you're giving out information. You're wanting to meet people, and so there's been a lot of instances where there will be people that have met someone on a dating site that they develop this full relationship with, and I can give one example of a woman that I spoke to, gosh, about 2 years ago now. And she had met somebody actually through Facebook. And he supposedly was a 50-year-old male living in, I believe, Syria, that was working for the United Nations on some secret peacekeeping mission. And he was helping refugees, and so needed money to help feed the refugees or whatever was going on. So it went so far as they got supposedly married, where he sent a marriage certificate to her, where they got married by UN decree. She actually filed it with the city of Spokane, or with the county recorder. And when I was talking to her, because it was actually her brother and some friends had reached out to me after seeing one of these presentations, asking if I would speak with her. And so I'm sitting down with her and her brother. And again, she is, I believe, was around 75 years old, was living kind of in a retirement community, and pointed out that the marriage certificate had marriage misspelled on the certificate itself. So, but even with that, she wouldn't believe me. And that is kind of the sad part of some of these scams are, and I've had other conversations with people where I've been told that, this is what you're saying, Tim, sounds correct. It sounds like that's probably true, but it's too painful for me to think that this is a lie. So I'm just going to continue doing it. So those are the really heartbreaking instances where you'll have that. Okay. Thought we had a question there. Never mind. And so again, dating sites, it might be an old acquaintance from high school. We've seen a few of those now with the advent of AI. That has kind of added a scary twist to these types of cases, kind of just with the ability for AI to do, social media scraping and network scraping, and really can find a lot of your information's out there online. So I had one case that I'm aware of where a man was reached out to by a woman he supposedly dated in high school. They rekindled their relationship, and it turned out that was completely fake, that the scammers had just found out that he had actually dated this woman and then created this kind of persona where they reconnected. Again, where these are happening, it's instant messaging, professional networking sites, social media, dating sites. What I tell people is, if anything that has anything to do with the internet or cellular technology and you're getting a message, instantly assume that it could potentially be a scam. I have settings on my phone. You can buy kind of like the Norton 360s. There's McAfee. There's a bunch of different programs out there. And again, the Spokane Police Department, nor the city of Spokane, is endorsing any specific product. But there are products out there that will help kind of limit the amount of spam texts that you might limit the amount of phone calls that you get. Are they perfect? No. But they kind of help mitigate the problem. I don't think there's any one thing out there that is going to be the surefire way to eliminate this problem entirely. But just doing certain things that help mitigate the problem will lessen the likelihood that you may be a victim. And again, I've done well over 100 of these types of cases, and actually kind of stopped doing the cases themselves. I was trying to work on a more of a global solution, but we'll get to later here in the presentation. But universally, it seems like they kind of fall into 4 different categories, or 4 different things that are red flags that you see in most of these types of scams, whether they be romance scams, financial scams, what have you. There's always going to be a request for personal information or money. That invariably is going to happen. Now, those two things could be separated by a great deal of time, especially like on the dating site. That personal information might be coming in fairly quickly until the relationship's developed. But then a year in, they're asking for money, or 6 months in, they're asking for money. A good rule of thumb is if you are on a dating site or you've met somebody online that you have not physically seen in person, don't give anybody any money until you've actually laid eyes on them and know they are a real person. Another thing that we'll see a lot of is a kind of a call to action where they're requiring you to do something or want you to do something. They'll want you to install a new application, like WhatsApp is popular among the scammers because it's end-to-end encrypted. Now, does that make WhatsApp a bad application? Absolutely not. It's just something to kind of be aware of if you are speaking to somebody on like a dating site and they suddenly want to go to WhatsApp instead of just regularly texting. That should be a red flag. Anytime there's a sense of urgency is a big one. We've seen that again with the advent of AI. And again, I'll use this presentation as an example. Someone could be recording my voice right now, running it through an AI program, and then getting it to say whatever they want it to say. Where does that come into kind of how that affects people here locally in Spokane and certainly nationwide? Is that there have been instances where these instances are growing more and more common, where a scammer will take on the role of a grandchild, usually late teens, early 20s, saying, "Hey, I got arrested, something bad happened, and I need you to send money to my attorney through this link. Please don't tell mom and dad. They'll lose their mind. I'll get in massive trouble." And then invariably, some of these people might actually call to see if Bob is okay, and Bob sitting on the couch next to them has never been arrested. But there have been instances where people have sent money and then realize after the fact that it's gone. Overall, what I say is if you don't know the person in person, ignore unsolicited communication. And that means, if you get a phone call that is not in your contacts, let it go to voicemail. If you're expecting a call from a doctor or something like that, they'll invariably leave a message and you can call people back. When you do call people back, look it up and see what actual number the number to the location you're calling is. So if it's the local clinic, call the local clinic, the number you know. If it's something where they've sent you a link basically to log in or whatever it is they want you to do, and call this number with any questions, it could be a fake number that sends you to somewhere completely different. What I have found, and I'm sure everyone in the medical data field are great people, but we have run into a ton of breaches, security breaches with medical information. So that is out there. That is very, very common. Another example that we've seen, and it kind of varies. It was very popular a while ago, kind of when crypto was riding high. We don't see it as much right now, but it's basically the investment sales pitch. And the idea kind of starts out the same. You meet a new friend on a dating site or Facebook or wherever you met this person online and develop a relationship. And again, this goes on for a certain amount of time. And then invariably on these types of scams, there's going to be the scammer will say, "Hey, have you heard of Bitcoin? Have you heard of Litecoin? Have you heard of whatever coin it is? I've made so much money in this and my friends have made so much money in this. You should start putting money into this coin." And they'll explain to you how it's completely safe. And they'll even send you a link to show you where you can log on to create your own account. Now, this is where it becomes important to know that these scams are very, very lucrative for the scammers. And they're usually run out of, and sometimes people think it's out of someone's mom's basement. Not the case. These are international conglomerates that are running these types of scams. You have organized crime in Nigeria. You have definitive organized crime in China running these scams. I believe it was in 2023, it was $6 billion went from the United States to China in these types of scams. And that's not million, $1 billion. So when you have $1 billion in free money that you've scammed out of people, you can start investing that money into your next scams. And that's what they do. So they will create fake websites that look like legitimate cryptocurrency investment sites where someone can, create an account, log in. And so that's what happens. The victim will open up an account and obviously give all the information that you would normally give in that type of scenario, your full name, social security number, date of birth, all the things. They might even ask you kind of the questions in case you lose your password, as far as, what was your mother's maiden name, things like that. So they have all that information. And then the person will invest into the cryptocurrency of whatever the flavor of the day is. We'll call it Bitcoin. And what will happen is the account will show that it's making money. And so if the person invests, let's say $5,000, that will grow to $10,000 or $15,000 very quickly. Now, the big thing is, and the scammers know this, is the concern is always going to be, can I get my money back out? And so this has happened a number of times on these types of scams, is that they will withdraw the money. The scammers allow them to withdraw the money, sometimes more than they even put in. It goes into their bank account. Everything's working beautifully. They realize this is now a totally safe investment. And that's where the real problems begin, is that we've had people here locally dump $250,000, $500,000, up to $1 million that I've seen in these types of cases. And then that just keeps going on. And for a while, it works. It's theoretically working because then they don't take the money right away. So they're still showing gains. They're still trying to get people to invest more money. But then when they want to take the money out, certain things start happening. Is they need to pay, well, there's a tax that you're going to need to pay ahead of time. There's a Bitcoin transactional fee that you need to pay of $20,000 in order to get your money out. Now, the people are wanting their money and they're hoping against hope that they're not getting scammed. And so I've seen people pay these types of fees in the hopes of getting their money out. And that is just another mechanism to extract more money from the victim. By the time they realize that this is a real problem, usually the website disappears, the person they were speaking to disappears, and it just kind of disappears into thin air. Because again, this was being run out of basically a sweatshop in China, where you have victims themselves that are being kind of coerced in a labor trafficking issue that's going on in Southeast Asia that are running these types of scams. And so we have seen this over and over and over again here locally. I've used this is one of my favorite ones just because it just makes me laugh. So this is an example of a friend of mine that had received a message on Facebook from someone. And again, my friend is about my age. And so I wanted to kind of go through some of the things that you can be looking for to see this could be a scam. Now, the first and foremost thing is you have a woman that you can see is in the profile picture. She's got a first and last name that's the same name. It's a little suspicious. But then she starts out by saying, "Hi, I'm new here trying to figure out how Facebook works. So I came across your profile." So no one in this day and age that's under her 20s is going to be reaching out to a man my age for assistance on Facebook. That is not happening. Actually, it's reversed. I usually have to ask my kids how the latest app works and what I need to do to use it. So this goes on. And I always like to point out, too, that, again, this girl's in her 20s, probably looks reasonably good looking. There is no reason on the earth that a woman that age is going to be reaching out to me to start talking to me and wanting a relationship with me. I have safely aged out of any physical appeal I may have once had. So something like that is just not happening. And it just goes on. And so you can see it's like, so he's kind of playing with it. And he talks about how, he gives a picture of himself and his buddy, and it's Jerry and Kramer from Seinfeld, and she just keeps going and trying to get him to a new app to start talking, and because she has no idea, or he has no idea, whoever the scammer is knows nothing about Seinfeld, because again, this person is most likely sitting in Southeast Asia somewhere at a kind of a sweatshop running these types of scams. This is kind of what it looks like on my end, and this is a really, really watered down version of a case I worked. And so over on the far left side, you can see where it says ATM, and that is the local ATM machine. It's a crypto ATM machine that my victim put money in on a romance scam. He was sending it to his girlfriend that was over in France who had lost her wallet and lost everything and needed money to get back home and needed to have the money in cryptocurrency. So you can see he puts the money into the ATM machine. It goes to the suspect's wallet. Now, when I say a wallet in cryptocurrency terms, think of it as just an account that you might have at a bank or financial institution. Savings account, investment account, checking account, whatever it is. A wallet is just a account, if you will, that holds value. It holds Bitcoin, it holds cryptocurrency, it holds whatever, but the wallet itself is owned theoretically by a person. Now, in any good money laundering scheme, we then try to hide where the money originally came from, so you can see it start spreading out. And then when you look to the far right, you see these circles with like red lines around them, and those are exchanges. The exchanges are places that, think of them as a financial institution themselves. They hold a lot of wallets. And again, this is very kind of, we're distilling it down in really basic terms, but that's kind of in general what you can think of these things as. And so the problem is that a lot of these cryptocurrency places are based not in the United States. If they are based in the United States, I can issue them a search warrant, a subpoena, and get information on who owns the account. A lot of these are not in places that have diplomatic relationships with the United States. So once they're there, there's nothing I can do. I've had cases where I know the suspect, I know the suspect's bank, I know where the suspect lives, and the person lived in Hong Kong. And again, I was still new at these type of international types of frauds, so I naively thought that certainly the Hong Kong police would help me out with this. And they were polite about it, but they kind of explained to me what I could go do to myself, and there we go. So it was just it's just gone, and so. Again, and I was joking before this started, I'm like the bearer of bad news everywhere I go with all these presentations. No one's going to invite me to parties or anything like that because I have all the bad news. But what I like to point out is like what you can do to kind of assist this, to fight this. The first thing is community, right? Check on your friends, check on your family, check on your neighbor that doesn't really talk to a lot of people, because a lot of times these scams work best in secret. Because again, sometimes because of the sense of urgency, because of the relationship developed, because of you name it, there can be a sense of, I need to do something right now, and I'm kind of panicked, and someone gets in their own head. I've had cases where we've had people that live out of retirement community, afraid that the Spokane Police Department or the Spokane Sheriff's Office or the U.S. Marshal Service is going to be executing a high-risk warrant at the retirement home because they have a warrant. And again, that's in your own head, you could kind of get there a little bit, but if you point that out or you mention that to a friend of yours, your friend might say, hey, we live in Washington State. They don't arrest people for really serious crimes here. It seems odd that they would come after you for that, or what have you. But it's like, again, once you have conversations with your friends, family, neighbors, and you can kind of talk through these things, that's when the scam falls apart. It works best for the scammers when they keep it secret. And that's what they tell you to do. Keep it secret. Don't tell anybody. So that's what you can do. The first thing, community, friends, family, neighbors, check in on people. The other aspect that we're trying to work on is legislation. Now, I initially tried to work at it, start attacking this at the state level through the Washington State legislator, and that was, we'll just call it unsuccessful. And so we've taken 2 runs at it. We're going to take a 3rd run at it this next term, but we decided to downshift. And so basically going from municipality to municipality, county to county, and getting people to contact their local legislators and get them to ban these ATM machines that are sort of the main problem here. Because again, the money is going into these crypto ATM machines that I touched on earlier. And again, if you've not heard of these types of machines, they are very common around, used to be very common in Spokane. We've banned them, and so they're leaving. But they're basically ATM machines that deal strictly with cryptocurrency. So I don't want people to be concerned about using their Wells Fargo or Chase ATM, but they're specifically designed for cryptocurrency, where people can put in thousands and thousands of dollars to go to these wallets that then end up gone. So what we did in Spokane is we banned them outright. And then we worked with the Spokane Valley, worked with the Spokane Sheriff's Office and to get them to ban. I was down in Kennewick about a month or two ago, and they banned it there. I reached out to Airway Heights. They had seen my presentation initially, and then invited me to come back to talk about this. And they ended up instituting a ban about 2 weeks ago, if I remember correctly. So that would be my one request for you, is if you can reach out to your local legislatures, your city council, your mayors, your police, and ask them what you need to do to get a ban in your municipality or your county. My information is going to be here at the very end. Have them reach out to me. You can reach out to me. I said when I started this whole process, if there's a Spokane knitting club with 3 people, I am willing to talk to them and drive great distances to speak with those people if necessary. So there's almost no limit what I'm willing to do to get these things banned. And we're certainly I'm focusing on Eastern Washington right now, Spokane more specifically, but I'd like to see these getting banned as we move forward. So if you can help in any way, please reach out to me. Even if you're out of state, I'm more than willing to help with that. I know there's other states, I believe it was Indiana, that has just banned these outright. But again, locally, they don't have the ability to just regulate them. Locally, it's just going to either be they can exist or they can't exist within our municipality. So that's kind of the route that needs to go. The other thing I like to point out too is the gift cards. These are, again, kind of wax and wane in popularity. These are the cryptocurrency's little brother that are annoying, but they don't cause quite the financial devastation that the cryptocurrency frauds do. But they can have people lose a lot of money. So if you are getting contacted by anybody, again, what we talked about, somebody you've met online, same rules apply with these cards, is that if you have met somebody online or really anywhere, I mean, if anyone asks you to go buy one of these cards to then scratch it off and take a picture of it and send it to them, I'm going to guarantee right here now that is a scam. Like, don't do it. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to your local law enforcement. But I'm going to almost guarantee that is going to be a scam. One other thing I like to talk about that is, again, where I don't get invited to parties very often because of my work, is that these scams have also focused on children here. And we're seeing a lot more of this. Here in Spokane, we've had, I'm sorry, not in Spokane. Nationally, we've had a little over 500,000 children that have been victims of online enticement from predators. It's about an 80% jump from the year before. And these predators are having kids, and it's the same type of play that they normally do in these other types of scams, is they befriend these children and pretend to be, it could be a 50-year-old man pretending to be a 12-year-old boy or a 12-year-old girl. And they develop an online relationship. Pictures are shared. And then once those pictures are received by the predator, those kids are then a lot of times extorted, either to send more pictures, make videos of themselves doing things that I won't discuss here, or doing other things. We've seen a lot of swattings from these. We've seen pet mutilation. This is an online, there's these online groups that is how they thrive. I won't go into great detail here because a lot of this is very heavy stuff, but no, this is happening, guaranteed in your jurisdiction. It's happening all over the United States. I've reached out to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They've kind of talked about this as well. They have guides online to kind of help give you more education on what you can do. All the services are free, but if you have more questions, you can certainly reach out to them. If you have questions, reach out to me as well. But this is kind of an online and growing problem that is now affecting children. So my ask is, again, your own children, depending how old they are, your grandchildren, make sure that there's open communication with the children that you are friends with or related to, with their parents, with you, with whatever it is, where you know what their online habits are. Because a lot of times people will hand the kid the iPad or the iPhone, and off they go, and they don't really have a lot of ideas what the kid is doing. And it's usually, well, my kid's smart enough that would never happen to my kid. And I can't tell you how many parents I've interviewed where that was said. This never would have happened to my kid, and yet I'm sitting in their living room having a discussion with them after bad things have happened to their kid. So always like to bring this out there as sort of something to be aware of, and that is a growing problem. Um, Also, if you think you're a victim, the first thing you do, ask people you trust for help right away. Again, this gets back to the community. If you think you've been victimized, reach out to family, reach out to friends, reach out to someone you trust, and kind of walk them through where you're sitting at, and they can help you out. File a police report. Now, sometimes I get the question of, well, why am I going to file a police report if nothing's going to happen? Great question and reasonable, especially here in Spokane. Sometimes it feels like we're just getting inundated with these cases. A lot of times these cases won't be worked in the manner that you would prefer, but a lot of times they are worked, but they're worked in different avenues. Because we have, and I'll give an example of a human trafficking case that I'm working right now. So the human trafficker is based out of the Seattle area. He has several girls working for him, and working for him in ways that you'd expect a pimp would have girls work for him. But also, he's having them open up bank accounts. With these girls opening up bank accounts and basically doing a fraud where they open the account and try to drain the account of money as quickly as humanly possible over a weekend with forged checks and things like that. And then by the time the bank realizes that they've been scammed or defrauded, people are already gone and they've already withdrawn, $5,000, things like that. So those types of cases, we have then gone back and looked at that person and said, okay, where was this guy a suspect before? We know he's trafficking women. We know he's doing these other things, but what financial crimes can we hit him on as well? Because again, that is the whole reason all these people are in business, is to make money. So if you can go after him, and I can count well over 50, 60 times where I've had cases that I've used, financial cases unrelated to my human trafficking case, where I've used then to put charges on those people to get them hemmed up. And in Washington State, you've got to do that a little more than the average bear in another state, but you can put people away here. You just have to have enough criminal history to put them away. And that's where the financial crimes really come in handy, is you can lay on 20 felonies on somebody pretty quickly through these types of scams. So it's very important that you report these. Also notify your financial institutions. If just an abundance of caution, so they're aware of it, they might change account numbers, they might do a few things, or at least flag your account as a potential fraud victim. This is a big one. Always double check your credit score, the credit report with TransUnion, Experian, Equifax, just to see if there's any new credit, anything on there that doesn't look familiar. But you can also put freezes on your credit, and that's free of charge. And what that means is you can put a freeze on your account where it does not, where someone can't take over your account or pretend to be you and create a new, get a new credit card, new loan, what have you, without your knowledge. So it's free to use. All you've got to do is get on the Google machine and do TransUnion with credit freeze, and that'll lead you right through it. It's very easy to do. Doesn't take a long time, but it's very, very helpful. Again, if it's too good to be true, it usually is. And this is my contact information. You can take a screenshot of the screen. Please reach out to me. If you live in the Spokane area, I would ask that you call Crime Check first. But if you don't get a response, feel free to give me an email or a call. But again, if you're outside the area and just have a general question on this, or would like to assist in legislative efforts or anything else, please reach out to me at any time. Again, thanks for having me here today. I'm going to open it up for questions that anyone has, and we'll kind of go from there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Detective Schwering. That was wonderful information, very straightforward, and a call to action, which I think is really helpful for all of us. We do have a couple of questions coming in. I'd like to ask you a question, though, to kind of follow up on something that you mentioned and talked about. You talked about people that just refuse to believe they're being victimized. And this is something that when speaking to older adults, we hear a lot at AARP. And, what type of advice for, sometimes we even say, have a local police officer come and talk to them, which again may or may not work. But what advice can you give? Because I think many of us joining today, very possible we know someone that we want to share this information and it's like, oh no, it's really true this time. This
Mhm.
time is the real time. And I've heard that several times. So what other tips can you give us to deal with that?
I think the main thing with that type of scenario is you're probably going to need patience, because again, there is just like the scam didn't start quickly. Getting them to believe it isn't going to start quickly either. That has been kind of my experience where you have someone, and again, it's incredibly sad because you have somebody who is maybe divorced or has not been married for a long time or widowed, and they finally met somebody that they feel loves them, and they don't want to hear from their friends that this is not true. First off, because they truly believe they love this person, but also no one likes to be told that they're wrong and that they're gonna feel kind of silly and foolish. So a lot of times it's gonna be a case of like just sort of like slowly feeding the information and hoping they come to that on their own, um, kind of deductions as far as, hey, have you ever met this person uh, in real life? Is that it just seems like you never see this person. There might be they might have a fake like Zoom or meeting where they have like even an AI person or an actor doing it.
Mhm.
And so those are very delicate though. It's just going in there saying, this is a scam. You can't do this. You shouldn't be talking to this person. Has not been, in my experience, overly successful. It's usually they don't want to hear it, and it's going to take a while for that to kind of really sink in.
It sounds like patience is really the key.
Yes, and that can be, and I
Okay.
think that's the hardest thing then for the people that are watching this happen, whether they're their friends, family. It's like, how can you not see this? This is, as
Mhm.
plain as the nose on my face. Why can't you see this? And so there's frustration, and the problem is that once the frustration kind of creeps in, you don't want there to be kind of a schism between the victim and her family and friends because they're frustrated. You've got to maintain that friendship. You got to maintain that connection to kind of stay on top of that and work with them.
Yeah, understood. And it looks like Stephen has a question that I think would be helpful for everyone. How do you identify a crypto ATM from a safe ATM, other than something that's obviously at the bank? And, sometimes they're very obvious, I've seen. Sometimes it's really kind of hard to tell. What do
Yes.
you
No,
think?
that's a great question. And so for the most part, like the ATMs that you're aware of that you use, for your Chase, for ATM, Bank of America, whatever it is, those are not crypto ATM machines. The crypto ATM machines, and again, they're getting more common, but they're usually not going to be around like a financial institution. They're going to be almost clearly saying something with crypto in the name, or Bitcoin, or something along those lines. And there's going to be a kind of a clear crypto component to this where you might be scanning a QR code or doing something. This isn't something that you need to worry about using your ATM that you've used every day for the last 10 years. Those are safe. That is going directly to your financial institutions. The cryptocurrency ATMs are usually, and again, when they were first coming out in Spokane, they were in like gas stations. They started getting into grocery stores. A lot of them places that wouldn't normally have an ATM machine like that. But basically, it's going to be very clearly labeled in some form or fashion a crypto style ATM machine.
So it seems like even the Coinstar machines that I sometimes see in the grocery stores,
Mhm.
some of those look like they're now also taking or
Cryptocurrency.
accepting cryptocurrency, correct?
Yes, yes, they are. And so those, excuse me, those ones are a little tricky because they have a legitimate component to them, but they
Mhm.
also had the crypto component to them. So, for example, here in Spokane, what we did is explain you don't have to get rid of these machines, but they have to have the crypto component disabled. And so that's what a lot
Mm,
of the larger companies that own these did. So again,
mhm.
anytime that you're using an ATM machine and it just is, you're just going to your bank, we don't see any, you don't hear, terms like wallet or crypto or Bitcoin or something like that, you're going to be okay.
Mhm. Great. And so James says that he was scammed a month ago and lost some money before he took the risk, took the information, I guess, to tell a trusted friend. How do I keep this from having? How do I keep from having this happen again?
Great question. So that is wildly frustrating, and I'm sorry that happened. Um, but the same thing kind of goes what we were talking about before, is like just be vigilant on who you're communicating with. Again, not knowing a lot about what your scam was like, but having, vigilance on who you're talking to online, being aware of who you're dealing with. And again, anytime there's a component of money involved, um, double check, triple check. Even if it's a family member that you think you're communicating with, double check with that family member or other family members. And I use that as the example with the AI, where it was the grandkid that was supposedly in jail. Call his mom and dad, call your kids, ask, is Bobby okay? Um, it's basically, again, these scams work best when they're run in secret and it's just the victim kind of in their own head. Once more people are aware of that, that's usually when these fall apart. So in that question, I would say just keep talking to your trusted friends. And so before sending money out, saying, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And they might tell you, it might be like the Chris Rock of like, "I wouldn't do that if I were you," and you kind of go from there. But I'm sorry that happened. But again, stay kind of vigilant and just stay in contact with friends and ask questions.
Mhm. So kind of back to old school, actually calling and talking.
Yes, yes.
Not a bad thing. Denise says, and Bruce, I've kind of jumped in here. You usually I manage these questions in the chat. I hope you don't mind. I was kind of getting involved in them. Denise says, I keep getting email advising me of a purchase, then say if then they say if this is an error or if I didn't order, call a specific number, of course. If you call, they want all of your information. So I think we've probably all gotten a lot of these calls or emails. Other than deleting the email message, is there a way to stop these?
There's not a foolproof way to stop them. They're super annoying. I get them. Washington State, I don't know if the Department of Licensing just got completely hacked and just they released everyone's information, but they were sending out text messages saying that they had these toll bills to pay, and almost everyone in the state was getting them. Um, Basically, you can buy like the applications that I talked about earlier, like the Norton 360 or what have you, anything like that, that can sort of filter out spam messages and kind of send it to a different folder, if you will. You can certainly block the number. The problem is a lot of times they're rotating through numbers very quickly. But yeah, you can definitely block the number. There's no foolproof way to deal with these right now. I think there needs to be, I'm dealing with things at the local level and we're trying to deal at the state level. This really is a federal issue, and there needs to be federal legislation passed in order to really attack these kind of as a global thing that's happening in this country.
Mhm. So asks, is there anything you can do to ensure people don't get your credit card information and make a purchase? This has happened to me when the card was in my possession. The card company took care of it and they issued a new card, but I'm wondering if there are protections to ensure this does not happen. The company does send emails every time a purchase is made, which is how I found out about it.
Yep.
Several good points in there.
Nope, and that's wildly frustrating. And this has become kind of a larger issue, is that there's technology out there that can be like right next to you and that can pick up like from the chips in your credit card. They can scan that and get the information. Here's what you can do. And I use this as an example. So like I've got a card here that I'm not going to pull out so I can show everyone my information, but it's basically just a card holder sleeve that has the ability to kind of protect it. So none of those types of devices can get that information. You can also have wallets. This wallet is designed as kind of a protection for that, so those readers can't get that information. Now, there's always going to be other ways that they can do that, but that's kind of a good first step. Protecting yourself is just getting kind of sleeves, wallets, purses, what have you, that are the ability to kind of block those signals so they can't just kind of be standing by you and get that information. The other aspect too is when you are on an open network, and by open network, I mean when you go to the library, um, where you go to the hotel, and they have free Wi-Fi. If you're using the free Wi-Fi for whatever reason, use a VPN as well. And that's software that's very easy to use. You basically turn the VPN on, and that creates kind of a protective, and I'm distilling it down, try to make it more simple to understand, but it's basically, think of the internet as a big tube, and the VPN is basically a kind of wall around that tube to make sure that people that are also on that open network can't get your information. And so that is those are probably the two things that I would do to kind of prevent that from happening, or at least
Mm,
mitigate it from happening.
okay. Yeah, Robert has some good information for folks to read regarding older people falling for someone, with a recommendation of some reading material. And then, which I think it'd be good to take a look at for folks. DM also has a question regarding uh, all of the attempts to ban the crypto kiosks. Who is lobbying the Washington legislature to keep this legislation from being passed? It's kind of what we were talking about before our session today.
Yep. So the crypto kiosk companies are the ones that are hiring these um, lobbyists to try to keep these things from being banned. And so I know they make a lot of donations to different campaigns, which is totally fine. I won't comment on that. But I know they hire lobbyists to lobby to make sure that these things aren't passed. And so at the state level, at least in Washington State, it's kind of been a swing and a miss both times. Is that even because the legislation we were pushing forward didn't even ban them, they were just putting kind of restrictions on the use of them that seemed to me pretty benign. It was. Again, I've likened it to if we all formed a company and started selling bear traps and loaded bear traps in a grocery store and then acted surprised when people stepped in them and got hurt. It's kind of the same thing. There's really I can't think of a good reason why crypto kiosks exist for any legitimate purposes, because again, the fees on these types of kiosks run 10, 20, 30% per transaction. So it's hard to believe that somebody who is savvy enough to be able to trade in cryptocurrency is going to say, you know what, I don't want to do it on my phone. I don't want to do it on my computer. I want to get my car, drive down to the local Piggly Wiggly, and put money into a crypto ATM machine. It just doesn't make sense. So that's my feeling on those.
Understood. Understood. Stephen says that they use a code word for their family to definitely identify one of their kids if they get a suspicious call, and then also follows up with that saying, so is the code word an effective idea to use?
We have that for our family. So our kids,
Okay.
we've got kids in high school and junior high, and they always knew the likelihood of something happening where neither my wife or I could pick them up, or that we couldn't have like a dear trusted friend pick them up was remote. But if ever there was a person that was going to say, hey, your parents got tied up doing something, I need to pick you up, the kids knew to say a code. What was the code word? And no, it's just here's the thing. It's another layer of defense. None of these things are perfect. None of these things are going to stop it all the time. But if you put enough layers up to mitigate these risks, pretty soon the level of risk you're looking at gets pretty low. But no, I love that idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I always tell people to make sure their kids and grandkids don't share that code word on social media with any of their friends.
Oh, for goodness sakes, yes. Yeah. Don't get me started on
Well,
social media, but yes.
yeah,
Basically, I will say with social media, if you have it, make sure it's locked down. If you're not quite sure how to do it, ask your grandkid, ask somebody you know. People put so much information out on social media that can be used for nefarious reasons. As simple as, hey, my husband and I are having a great time in the Bahamas, so that way the scammers know that you're not at home and can go rob your house. Something as simple as that. So make sure your information is locked down. If you don't have to put it out there, don't put it out there.
Yeah, exactly. And Daryl notes that a virtual private network, which will mask your online activity to a certain extent, really helps, but isn't 100% effective solution, especially for public Wi-Fi sites. Are there some other things that we can do? Like I have a virtual private network. Some sites that I go to that aren't financial, or I mean, they're just kind of like, well, they're social media sites. Keeping up with my friends, and of course, you can't go to that site unless you disable your VPN.
Correct.
So, then the temptation is to do that, which you're defeating your own purpose.
Mhm.
What are some other ideas that we can do to kind of keep us safe? Because I know, besides just email, gosh, a lot of folks are out on social media for a lot of different reasons. What do you recommend?
So that's a tough one. So yes, so there are some social media sites that you can get on with a VPN, depending on where the VPN's registered at. So sometimes you'll have people register the VPN here in the States or in the state you're in, or they might be out of the country. And so it makes it appear that you're in, Bangladesh logging into Facebook. And so that sometimes that might create an issue. Um, Basically, so when you're not using that VPN and you want to be on social media, I suppose that's fine, but just don't be doing any financial work on that. Uh,
Mhm.
Close the when you're done. If you're doing social media, just do social media, and then when you want to do something else, just make sure you close out of social media, get on a VPN, and move forward. You can use private browsing. You can do a number of things. Nothing's perfect. Um, but yeah, just again, the same rules apply. Just be cautious, just be careful. But especially when you're on an open network, that's when people can get your information. And a lot, so it's not like that you're on your own private, Verizon or T-Mobile network, or you're on your Comcast network at home. I'm talking about open networks, out in public. Again, if something's that big of an emergency regarding your finances, maybe just head home and get on your local Wi-Fi or your VPN or on your T-Mobile account and check it that way. But again, just be careful and just be cautious.
Mhm. Well, and that's a really good point. I had mentioned earlier, I'm actually at the one of the city library branches here in Boise, logging on today. Went to log on and plug in my little cord to get on their Wi-Fi, and I double checked with them, and it's City of Boise free Wi-Fi.
Mhm.
And so I thought that the library, hey, it's the library, this is just going to be a Wi-Fi network for this library branch. No, this is citywide. And I thought, well, I'd love for everybody in Boise to see this presentation. So come on, come along. And view at your heart's content. But again, sometimes I think we really need to stop and think, where are we when we're logging on, not just assuming everything is safe because we're just kind of zooming through our day. Don't do your finances at Starbucks. Right, we got it. Um, and then, Bruce, we're kind of coming up to our time here. I kind of just jumped in on your usual question, chat moderating. Um, I was kind of really getting excited into it. So,
Yeah, actually, I think they're doing a great job, and
yeah.
we have got some good questions. One question I would put to Detective Schwering that we see a lot, and we saw in a crypto scam, is and also I've experienced it in my own family, is the idea that the police or the sheriff are coming to arrest you for some unpaid government bill,
Yeah.
whether it's a bench warrant or kind of like the toll scam. Is isn't that a red flag that the police do not go around collecting money for the government, especially in cryptocurrency or in gift cards? Can you talk a little bit about that as a red flag?
You bet. So that just doesn't happen. So if there is basically the warrant process is if there is a warrant out for someone's arrest, they can theoretically be, maybe stopped at a traffic stop and being like, oh, you have an active warrant, taken into custody, we move on with life. And just to kind of I'll give you an insight into local and county law enforcement. So you have a lot of younger guys that are on patrol wanting to get bad guys. That's great. They got into the right job. They are going after bad guys like people with gun crimes, with drug crimes, with violent crime. I can't think of anyone that has gone out and said, I'm going to be hunting people with warrants with a fraud type of element to it. That just doesn't happen. So basically what I'd say is that, again, if someone tells you you have a warrant, be like, okay, that's great. I'll call my attorney, hang up on them. And if you're very, very concerned about it, just call your local police station, call your local sheriff's office saying, hey, I got this call saying I had a warrant. Can you just verify? And they're going to say, no, this is definitively a scam. Or, and I can't think of this really ever happening, but they're like, oh my goodness, you do have a warrant. But again, the government isn't going to send you, someone's not going to come to your door or call on you saying that you have a warrant. And the way to get rid of that is through cryptocurrency. Basically, the rule of thumb, if you don't take anything else out of this presentation, if you hear the words cryptocurrency and you didn't bring up the topic, assume someone's trying to scam you. That's just a good rule of thumb at this point. I'm certainly not besmirching cryptocurrency, but in that form or fashion where people are bringing it up to you saying you need to do something and it has to be done through cryptocurrency, that needs to be very concerning.
Mhm. So, Detective, I have a question for you. Have you ever had anyone tell you, as you've been out speaking with groups and organizations, have you had anyone tell you that I feel pretty safe because, I don't really know much about cryptocurrency, really nothing at all. So I feel pretty safe. I can't be scammed by someone trying to use cryptocurrency on me. I mean, sometimes I get that reaction when I'm speaking with people. They think it's a false firewall to keep them safe if they don't really understand it. And to be honest with you, does anybody really understand cryptocurrency?
Right,
Except
right.
maybe you.
Right. Yes, I have had that happen. And the issue becomes, and I'll even add to that. I'll have people saying that I don't use the internet. I use everything I'm a paper person. I get everything, mailed to me. I don't use anything on the internet that would be financially related. So I'm completely safe. I would tell you that there are so many data breaches. So even if you're getting paper statements from your bank, or you're getting paper from your doctor's office, or from the people who do the blood draws, or whomever, those people do have your information and they have it in digital format. And those companies are getting breached. They're almost getting breached weekly. And so what I tell people, and this is again why I don't get invited to public parties very often, is that just assume all your stuff's out there. Assume all your stuff is out there on the dark web, and what do I need to do to prevent that from happening to me? And so, yes, again, and when I first started doing these presentations, a lot of the responses were, that sounds crazy. Who would fall for that? And again, it's like, and you kind of, besmirch a little bit the people that that were victimized. And the problem is, until it happens to you, you don't realize how good these people are. I've talked with people that have, I remember talking to one guy. He was the CEO of a regional bank, and he said, "I know this is a scam, but they are unnerving me because they're so persuasive." And so so these guys are good at what they do. Again, when they take in $6 billion in 1 year, they get very good. They're very good at what they do. So again, if some people aren't going to be falling for a crypto scam, that's fantastic. But be aware of the generalities, though, so you don't go buy gift cards and send pictures of a gift card number to that person. So same idea.
Same thing. Bruce, how are we doing on time here?
We're at the end of our hour, but if anybody has a last minute question, go ahead and put it in. But I was going to invite Detective Schwering to have a last word. Is there anything you would like to leave people with that we did not ask you about or was not at your presentation? Is there anything to sum up if you could only leave people with one thing?
You bet. Again, thanks again for having me here today. I really appreciate reaching this crowd. Again, anything dealing with cryptocurrency or anything that just kind of makes you think, gosh, this seems a little off. Talk to somebody. That's kind of the key thing of, stay in contact with friends, stay in contact with family. Something doesn't seem right, reach out to somebody, and just kind of always stay vigilant. Again, you have my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me at any point. And what I loved about this presentation is, again, I've been in this industry for a long time, and there are times where you can think that you get a nice introduction like I had today, nationally known, world known, and then you misspell friends in your presentation, and then it's like, well, you're really not that great, Tim. So, so no, I appreciate being here today. I enjoyed this. I always enjoy it. And again, if anyone here is part of any other organization that would want to have me speak, I'm happy to do so. Just again, I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen.
Mhm. And are you willing to share your PowerPoint presentation or in a PDF form that we can share with our attendees today?
Easy to do. Yep, I will get that out to you guys when I'm offline here.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, we usually send a follow-up survey, and when we can attach some good information to it, I think it's really helpful. We had a few requests for copies of that information.
You bet.
Great, thank you.
Yes,
Bruce?
absolutely. You should get an email probably by Tuesday of next week, and that'll have the presentation that Tim is sharing. I'll convert that to a PDF, and we can attach it. And also, it'll have a link to register for next month's Fraud Watch Friday. But if you want to go ahead and do that now, that would be great before you forget. I put that link in the chat. That's going to be on August 21st. And I think we'll be doing some new cyber fraud info from our volunteer, Andy Meyer, who has presented
AI. Mhm.
the before and was on stage in Spokane. He had two side detective Schwering and Kay and Andy, and I was also there. He's going to be doing an update, and so that should be really interesting. I put the Fraud Watch Network helpline in there, and also the website. That's got so much fraud information from ARP, and we're always updating it. I think that is all the information. It's just been such a great opportunity to hear from not only inside local law enforcement, but from law enforcement that is such an expert. And like a lot of police departments are small, they don't have the resources to have a fraud expert like Tim Schwering. So it's been great to have you on, and we really appreciate the work that you're doing across our state to fight fraud. So with that, I don't see any other questions, and I think we've given you all the information. So I think we will put a wrap on another Fraud Watch Friday, and
Yep.
we will see you in August.
Okay. And Detective, if you can hang in with us for just a few moments, that'd be great. Thank you
You
all
bet.
for joining us. We look forward to seeing you with our cyber and AI expert, Andy Meyer, next month in August for Fraud Watch Friday. Thank you.